So we come on with the Petroff now. Let's start with what you're most likely to face. I think that's generally the way I like setting out courses. I mean, we do look at sidelines, but we're going from the start of this course with the main sort of E5E stuff. Petroff should come next, as the Petroff is a main weapon that black uses. Now, in this game, actually, I say we're going main line. We're going to just ease ourselves in a little bit after the moves knight f3, knight f6. And we're going to be looking at a line which is black's really second weapon against our aggressive setup. And our aggressive setup here is not to take on e5, which everyone expects to play. And your opponent will certainly be expecting this move when they go here and they take back here with a very symmetrical structure. We don't mind symmetrical structures as long as we've got loads of piece play, and this is absolutely fine to do. But I really enjoyed some of the variations that you can get after this d4 move. And it's also, rather than following the main fashion lines, for example, in that last position, where we play takes, and here, the main fashion nowadays is knight c3, but the amount of theory you're going to have to learn and keep up with in these positions is phenomenal. All the top players are playing this, so I don't want to do this. And this d4 move is a very good option, and it's the most aggressive move, just pushing forwards. It also fits in very nicely with our other gambit lines we've seen so far, where we're trying to play d4, open up things. And now we're looking at pawn takes d4. And I've got, yeah, you don't want to know. Pawn takes d4. And this is black's most popular choice. So that's what we're starting with the Petroff as a way to ease ourselves in. Now, the most popular choice is knight takes e4. We're coming to this in the next video. And rather than, again, taking here, getting symmetrical structure, we're going for d takes e5, as we've seen in those model games at the start of the course. And here, only really two moves make sense, with white enjoying very quick development, easy moves, and aggression in all cases. And the moves that make sense here is bishop c5. This is the main move. When it looks like we're going to have to go passive and defend this, no. We're going to go very sharp, very aggressive with bishop c4. This is covered in another video, as it is incredibly sharp, right? Leading to some chaotic and brilliant variations. And again, look at that model game. I would always say look at the model games at the start of this course first, just to whet your appetite for when we have to go into the learning. And in some cases, I have to admit, memorizing moves. More so in tactical courses than I've mentioned in more positional openings. This is not, it's positional, but these are the openings we're picking here are more tactical and courses. So in these ones where one move makes all the difference, it's sometimes key to play the right moves. More so for black as he's defending. And we're going to be looking at d5 in some lines. So let's have a look. And that is in this position. Let's go back here. As well as bishop c5, there's moving the d pawn. So d6 is one idea, and d5. And all of these things are coming a little bit later on in the position. Now, if d6, well, okay, we don't need to worry about this too much because we have bishop c4. I wouldn't be accelerating black's development. That's why d5's a better move, because d6 allows our bishop to come to the square. And it has some nasty ideas of taking here. I mean, there's this kind of trick, but then there's a bishop b4 counter. But in this one, just taking the queens and taking here is one sufficient way to gain what should be a winning advantage. So actually, after bishop c4, c6 has to be played. And now we're going to go knight bd2, and this transposes into variations we're going to look at. Don't worry yourself too much about this now. After d4, e takes d4, And this is where we start. So the two main moves, e takes d4, knight takes here. E takes d4 allows us to keep the aggression up with e5. And obviously, we're playing this move because it's the most demanding. And now played nearly always is knight to e4. This knight may look a bit silly, but as we can't go d4, the knight often aims to get back around to e6, where it covers a lot of our ideas. Other moves, let's briefly look at because they're rubbish. For example, queen e7. I mean, it might be a good move if we couldn't play the natural bishop e2 breaking the pin. Why are these two moves ever going to help black if he's going to have to move the knight anyway? The queen just, jumbles things up for black. It gets in the way. And let's have a look at some knight moves just to be, really as thorough as we can. Knight g4. Well, now we're just going to go queen takes d4, attacking the knight. If d6, well, again, we don't need to go heroic. We can just go pawn takes d6, and now queen takes d6 is forced. And after simply knight c6, yes, we are getting a symmetrical position. Yes, the queens are often coming off, but we have so much play here with our knights. We still have lots of tactical chances. Our king can castle. Knight c6 best. Let's not grab that queen straight away, helping black develop. And one thing you're going to see a lot in these lines where your queen does come out to d4 is that the best square for the queen is f4. And that's also the position here with knight b5 as our main idea. And also we have castling. If the queen is ever taken, c7 is target number 1. This is a very useful and simple initiative. So bishop e2, knight e4 is a little bit like the main lines, except this move's been played. That can't be good for black. And we can castle. Let's say knight c6. Black's trying to win this pawn. But now we just go rook e1. And this is an excellent version of some of the other lines we're going to look at. This pawn is really too risky to take. There's a number of good moves that white has there. And after something like queen c5, well, bishop d3 is another example of how much trouble black can get in with now this knight being lost in the center there. So this doesn't really impress knight e4 here. And lastly, what about knight d5? Well, here we take on d4. And in these lines of the queen on e7, we should probably never get. If we can take on d4 and attack the knight, then we will, because it means that black doesn't have a chance to go knight c6. Black should really try to swap queens off here because he's so far behind development. And we can happily swap that one. There's one threat to cover. Knight a3 safely covers that one threat. And after d6, just castling. And again, very simple play with a very nice initiative due to our extra development. And even, you may think it is too symmetrical for me. Well, it's not really, it shouldn't be really, because of our activity. We don't mind a symmetrical position if our pieces are all developed. We have about 3-4 extra tempo. We still have these ideas coming in. So it's not anything to fear. So after d4, our main solution, e takes d4, what this video is about, e5. Now, queen e7 doesn't work. What about knight d5 straight away? That seems a little bit more sensible because at least the bishop can move. And again, there's no reason why we shouldn't take here with the queen attacking the knight, forcing it to move. And let's just play normal developing moves. Knight to c3, knight c6. Queen f4 is certainly not a bad square, but in this case, as black's one breaking move is d6, and we should always be considering things like, well, this is a slightly weird move order from my opponent. How can I punish that? A better square is queen e7, because now the d pawn can't move because we simply take with check. So bishop e7 here, for example, and now bishop d3 is good, but now again we should be thinking what black's trying to play. He's trying to play this move. So let's just cover that one first with bishop f4. I say cover that one, but we're preparing castles. And if we can stop that d pawn from annoying us, then black is so cramped. And if he ever plays this now, we can take on pass on, and he has to take with a pawn and even castles here. and that is just a weakness there. Well, we can't sling if we can. So the final idea here after e5, well, this one's not great, is the main move, knight to e4. And like we mentioned, this is what you're going to face nearly all the time. Now, there's a couple of options in this position. And those options include stuff like queen e2. But I think our general idea should be, if there's a good, obvious move, even if it is main line. I know we want to avoid main line most of the time for more aggressive options. But if our main line option is aggressive and it is better for us, let's play it. And there's no reason why we should shy away from just taking this one. And it's the same philosophy as really what we've been, discussing before. When black should now play d5. Now, I did mention this idea of the knight coming here. This is a little bit too premature because black is just wasting so much time. And the good thing about these moves in this position, as we've got space advantage, it's so much easier to develop without any hassle with a space advantage. And there's a number of good moves here. I mean, bishop g5, knight c3, bishop, whatever you play here, you're going to be better with a development advantage and annoying pawn. So I'm going to leave this one to you guys. I would probably, play this bishop out to one of these two aggressive squares. So knight c5 can't really be done now. Now, bishop c5 just, drops the knight. So this is something black wants to play, but he can't play here. And f5 is the wrong pawn move to make. We've seen this move being punished so many times because the king becomes too weak on this diagonal. Let's open it up by taking on pass on. And again, simple development. One little question I will ask you, after our queen is attacked, you've always got to, don't just try to copy the same moves in every case. Always look for the best squares. Where would you move your queen to here? I mean, there's more than one good square, I'll be honest, but there's one square which I feel, and I'll give you a clue, it fits in with what we're going to do against the Caro-Kann. It's a Hilbilio move, and I like h4. Making use of our queen. Not, bringing the queen out early is not always bad. And in this case, we want to go bishop d3, aim at h7, and we're probably going to castle kingside because it's a bit quicker, with fantastic development. Knight b4 is the only move to test us. Something like bishop d3. Bishop here, we go bishop d3. Quick development again. And this kind of thing can go horribly wrong for black. Even this starts to threaten things. So knight b4, and now this is a really peculiar move, but actually leaves black in a lot of trouble. And it's just king d1. Now, again, this may be a move where you're like, I don't want to move my king, Simon. But let's remember whose king is weaker. This king can't be got at with a pawn on d7. This knight's a little bit loose. This king is very loose. And this is actually the most aggressive move because we can get our light square bishop out and we've got another line to attack on. Speed is of the essence. Now, bishop e7 should be met by bishop g5. And this shows that this knight is a bit dodgy because we can take here. And if bishop takes, win that knight. And after castles, well, now we kick that knight away. There's no obvious way to take advantage of things because a rook takes. The knight comes back, and now bishop d3. And we get this brilliant attacking position. Our king is not an issue at all with such great development and immediate threats in the structure. It's no surprise here that h6 runs into bishop takes h6. And we're not giving our opponent a chance to defend. Pawn takes h6. Queen to g3 check is the key move. Actually, this is a little bit hard to find. But after king into the corner, queen g6, we are going to be taking that pawn with check. And it's not easy for black to find a move. Our main idea, though, is to get rid of the defender of checkmate. That's where we're trying to get our queen into. So our main threat is knight d5 now. So queen e8 trying to get the queens off. Now we take here with check. And the point of our little maneuver is that bishop g6 now forces that queen away and our knight comes into g5. Game over. Game over. I wonder what game that was. So again, this is h6, bishop h6. This is all good. So king d1 is really annoying, actually. If black tries to play d5, thinking, right, okay, I need to get my bishop here, I'm coming for you, activity. Well, now we move our bishop to g5 again. This is our key component of our plan, creating a very strong pin. And, you know, we're going to get a rook to e1 at the right moment. Bishop e7 fails to bishop f6, as we've seen, because of the knight. That's one of the things that black's got to watch. Bishop f5, logical, but now we have a move that defends and attacks. Knight d4, defends, attacks. Bishop g6, and now we push that knight away, and let's bring out the bishop to b5 with threats of taking there, and now we see why our king could be quite useful. Black never has an opportunity to take advantage of our king, which is slightly misplaced, but it doesn't matter. We're getting to his king first in all lines. So after queen d4, d5 is the move black needs to play here. And again, like I said before, we want to keep it simple if it's aggressive, and we want to keep it as open as we can. So if we can remove pawns from the center to fit into the ethos of this course, aggression, we do that. Let's get rid of that pawn. The knight has to capture on d6. So this way the knight hasn't got back around, but okay. And now we just simply develop with knight c3, knights before bishops. Something Bobby Fischer actually said. Let's keep that guy happy, shall we? And we're still not sure where we're going to castle. Are we going to go kingside, queenside? It's a very nice choice. The knight on d6 is quite solid, but it's also in the way. It's in the way of the bishop. We have 3 pieces developed. Our opponent has 1. Okay, so now knight c6 is clearly the right move. Other moves are silly. I mean, knight f5, this ending, very nice. Knight g5, just showing how we can take advantage of our development. Big advantage there. And if bishop f5, well, even queen e5, and now bringing the knight to d5. These knight jumps are very nice. Gives us a big advantage. So knight c6 is obviously going to be played. And here, where do you put the queen? And as I did give you a little clue earlier, I think the square to put it is f4. This was first played back in 1896 by Chigorin against Napier. And later on, it got Kasparov's seal of approval. And anything that Kasparov does in the opening is worth watching, even now, where it's dated 20 years, because his opening ideas were extraordinary, especially with white. He was a demon with the white pieces. This actually occurred in his game against Karpov. So Karpov, you know, this opening that black's played is not completely useless. Karpov's playing it. But this queen move keeps the queen in touch of the king side. You know, we want to attack that later on. Also, our queen is, I think, fairly safe here because there's no bishop d6 at the same time. And, you know, it's just a nice way to play. We can get our bishops out very freely, and we can decide where the king goes, as discussed. So what does black do here? This is where there's a bit of a branch. G6 is the most popular move. Trying to just block some lines and get the bishop to G7. We'll come to that last. Let's have a look at the other options. Let's start with bishop E6, developing a piece. Well, again, let's develop our pieces. Let's go bishop D3. This is the most active square. I like this square. If black ever castles, then we stop a piece coming to F5. And now, if black continues with something like queen D7, trying to go queenside, let's just get the other piece out. Let's remain flexible. And again, we got that extra development and extra active queen. And after this move, I'm probably going to go queenside here because the rook could be very useful. And I'm just going to play with my pieces. I don't even need to play with my pawns here. Just look for the best squares for your pieces, especially in this setup opening. Your pawns can be useful, but actually your pieces are so good. You rarely need to rely on your pawns to get a good advantage. And now something like knight f5 has been tried in Wake and Z in a couple of games. And Now we have to give up a bishop, but on the plus side, after giving up that quite nice bishop there, after bishop takes f5, we can play knight b5, this annoying move, this tempo gainer. This is really problematic. We've got rook d1 coming, so obviously castle's queenside looks right. And now that black's gone that way, let's go the other way. And we're threatening rook d1. And this is not nice. Rook d1 is just a good, strong threat because black queen can't defend c7 and the bishop. So bishop takes c2, trying to stop that, is asking for it. And in actual fact, I don't know which rook's better, but this one makes a bit more sense. So bishop d3 doesn't hit our piece, I feel. And you can just see here that the compensation getting ready over here is too much. We've got knight coming in as well. a6, trying to get rid of that knight, but no. Another reason we left the rook here, a4. White has a very strong attack for just one pawn. Clear to see. You can't take this one, I feel, because after knight back here, we don't even sack a piece. There's no back rank. Checkmate here in the position, because if he comes down here, check. Well, what do we do here? I've got to make sure I know this one. We go here. And yes, because the checkmate threatened here. And this check just doesn't help because we're threatening the queen and we're threatening checkmate. Sorry, that wasn't in my notes. I mean, the notes are extremely extensive, but sometimes I add to them and see an idea. I just want to clarify, you know, from my own mind. Very rarely because they're so extensive, but this is just clearly good for white. And after something like bishop d6, well, queen a4. And a very clever attacking idea here. Let's imagine it's your move. What would you play here? There's a really nice idea, quite unique. Well, that knight's actually holding everything together. And our idea is bishop a7. And once we get rid of that knight, checkmate. It's a really nice idea, moving the bishop over here, right? Very unique. So going back to bishop e6, bishop d3. If queen d7, bishop e3 looks very nice for us. What about g6 here? Well, g6 here is a bit like the main line, but black's already put his bishop here. Maybe he didn't want to do that. And now we're just developing. And in this case, I think we can commit our king because we've done everything else now. Remember, we're playing with our pieces. And I think it's clear in this case that the rook belongs in line with the queen. Now, never be worried about doubling your pawns here because the dark squares are horrendous. And our king is not that weak because there's no the black queen. If the black queen was down here, yeah, okay, but it can't get there. So this is merely weakening black's position. So a more sensible idea is queen f6, trying to get the queens off the board. And simply, we could claim a lasting edge with something like queen takes queen and knight e4. Quite a weird assessment. We're a couple of tempo up. But I like queen a4. You know, we want to keep this aggression up. And the big threat here is bishop g5, which is quite easy for black to fall into. Like if he castles bishop g5 and you've bagged yourself a queenio. So I like queen a4 because, you know, it's a sound way to keep some options available. And h6 is, I think, black's only move. But now there's an amazing idea, and again, a new idea. This is full of novelties, this course. And it is a move which I would not be able to resist. Bishop a6. What a move, right? Because of the pressure on the light squares here. We're trying to undermine the knight on c6. And we have a threat of bishop b7. That bishop clearly can't be taken. Our queen comes in. And black can't castle here because of the very amusing queen takes c6. Which is very pretty. So black has to play bishop d7, forced. And now we can go rook e1. And here there's a big check coming. So the king has to flee. Looks very risky going over there. So let's put the king, well, I suppose over there is the only way to go, actually, because you can't go this way because now bishop takes b7. This is the point. And even though we're opening up lines to our king, it's not an issue because everything's dropping here. You can't take that one because the rook takes b7. So you have to go queenside in this line. And after going queenside, now we can just drop back to e2. And you might be thinking, okay, well, has this really gained everything? Black's managed a castle. But again, often in this line, when we go queen f4, our queen is just so active, right? And it has this pressure against a7. And we're actually threatening here. You know, why not to take on a7? That's a good attacking move. So after something like king b8 to stop this, I like the move queen a3, just avoiding now any knight moves. And we're threatening to go knight d5, another reason our queen here to defend b2, attacking the queen, and then take on f7. And then take on f7 in this position. And again, black's got his pieces out, but they're not on good squares. We have the pressure and the attack. So this has gone wrong for black. So bishop e6 after queen f4, just bishop d3. And if g6, we go bishop e3 and we castle queenside. Very simple. So bishop e6, it seems like bishop e6 seems like one of those slightly lazy moves from black. Because as we saw in all of those variations, well, the only idea is for black to castle queenside, but then his king becomes the target over there. So the next move we're going to look at is bishop f5. And you could argue this makes more sense because it's more active and maybe going to pressurize c2. But we now have a good move. We can't go bishop d3. I think we want to move our light square bishop first. And here, bishop b5 is very nice. Pinning, developing quickly. And in these variations, I wouldn't be so concerned about losing the bishop pair. Don't hold on to your bishop pair. And that goes throughout the course. Because if we can give up the bishop pair but gain a tempo or two, that's so much more important. And this is one case where, again, we're creating problems for our opponent. If we go bishop e2, he's got nothing to think about. If we go bishop b5, he's got so many more things to think about. For example, knight takes b5 just allows knight takes, and there's too many issues here. And in actual fact, an Indian grandmaster played this position as black, Berea in 1983. I think that's Eurovision song I sung there. You Americans won't know Eurovision, but oh my words, Eurovision, the best bloody competition in the world. Love it. And after queen here check, well, actually just king f1, because there's no way black can defend both pieces. So this grandmaster on move 11 was already lost. So it shows you that bishop b5 is certainly worth playing, right? You can't take that bishop as black. Now bishop e7, trying to get castled, allows us to increase the pressure with knight d4. And now we see that this bishop is actually very loose there, has to come back to d7. And actually just knight takes c6 I like. If pawn takes, our bishop will now come to this square, which is no longer defended. d3, our ideal square for that bishop if we can develop it. And e3, our ideal square for our other bishop. These two squares, very centralized, aiming both ways, keeping options open. Let me do a little rave. Too old and fat nowadays. When I do this course, I'll get back down doing some running again. It's got to be done, you know. Lockdown, though, so hard, right? I hope you guys are doing all right. I mean, you can always give me an email if you're struggling. We can talk about some chess or something. Get on the stream. It's not easy for everyone. And, you know, you've got to try to keep yourself positive. Just get stuck in. Actually, getting stuck into learning chess, what a better way to survive this lockdown, right? You know, you'll come out the lockdown with some blooming good skills under your belt. So well done for getting this far, I have to say. Some people, you know, I've even given up at times during this lockdown, but I'm keeping myself motivated by giving you some good material, hopefully. Okay, back to the game. So bishop takes. Well, now we just take it. Let's just castle. And again, we have an advantage. Not just the pawn structure, but these two guys, this knight kind of just blocks black in a bit, yeah? And our next plan here is going to be rook d1, and then we start targeting that, either from f3 or over on a4. Bit more positional, but, you know, so what? We've got a nice position. So after bishop f5, bishop b5, clever move. Bishop e7 allows our knight d4, which is nice. Bishop d7, what do you think we play here? Well, now we can take the square, bishop d3. And this is the ideal square. And I mean, it's not just good for attacking, it's good for covering some squares that black might want to move his pieces to. And our pieces are simply better placed, giving us brilliant piece play. I think here black has to get the queens off even, because if we can play a couple more moves, we're going to be fully developed, and then we can start having the real fun. Before attacking, generally, get your pieces developed, get your king somewhere. And with bishop e3 coming in castles, two simple moves to play, we can then start lobbing our bits in and start going forwards. Knight d5. Whoa. So I think queen f6 has to be played. But again, you know, we can just double those pawns and play knight d5. This happened in a correspondence game between Sedlacek and Sipka. But, you know, obviously white's better. So bishop d7 allows our bishop to get to the ideal square. Now, queen e7 is maybe the best try here, when we could try king f1 again, but king f1 in the last example only works really because we knew we're winning a piece. I don't see why we can't go bishop to e3, continuing to develop. I don't really want to move my king unless there's a really good reason. And now black has to do something because he can't really castle. We can destroy it. So maybe he should grab this one. And we see the difference now. Berea probably thought that white had to play bishop e3 in that last line. But now the point of black's play is he can at least get those queens off the board. But the pressure remains. Queen takes here, bishop takes, c3. And now the second point is that the bishop can at least defend c7. Quite an easy mistake for black to play here is bishop a5. The reason this is a mistake is that b4 happens when the bishop can't drop back because we take it and we're going to win c7. So black has to try some tactics with like bishop d3. And now we just secure that knight. And again, black has to keep attacking that knight with a6. And rather than going for any, you know, complex lines, let's just centralize that nice piece, knight d4. And this happened in the game Palmer-Trivonovic, Amsterdam 1965. And white is doing very nicely here with his more centralized pieces. Yes, we are getting endings, but they're endings which are always better for white. I say endings, then with the queens are off. It's not Berlin. Don't start shouting at me. Do you really want me to go to the... We're not doing the Berlin. Whew. Because we're going bishop c4 instead of bishop b5. Bishop d6 is maybe a little bit better, but again, this is another case that we can just take this and castle kingside. And why would anyone with black willingly go into this position? You know, you really want to be one of those guys who loves, I don't know, using nipple clamps or something. You like a bit of pain to go into this position, right? Because, you know, there's no, you're playing again, two good players play this. There's two results. White wins or it's a draw. White has no weaknesses. Black has this weakness, which I can't imagine that black will ever be able to really hold. This has a score of plus 10 wins, 10 draws, and 0 wins for black. Just demonstrating that. And, you know, let's just put one more move on the board, castles. And after this, centralizing the knight. We do not fear an exchange. We've got a target for the rest of the life. And this knight is heading for b5. I mean, black playing this, I don't understand why any black player want to play this position. Yeah, you could say black has drawing chances here, but I mean, so what? You know, I mean, what do you want, man? You know, drawing chances, but not many. The nipple clamp variation. So, you know, this whole line with bishop f5 is failing to bishop b5, this active move. So queen e7 we saw on those last lines, but in this position, it doesn't make any sense, I feel, because we block it in a developing way. And now black can try bishop e6, a little bit different to that last line. with the intention of castling queenside. But again, just compare the pieces. We can, let's castle now. There's other moves, but there's nothing wrong with this. And now if castles, what do you think you play here? Have you been paying attention? In this case, moving our bishop to d3 is okay, but what is it actually doing there? We're doing a developing move. We want to play, now we know where our opponent's king is. As soon as our opponent commits his king, we can certainly think, well, his king's over there. He can't suddenly move it the other way. Let's go for that guy. Let's go for the king. We don't need to play bishop d3 and aim at the other side of the board. You know, what were you doing over there? Let's go for the king. And here, queen a4 is the move that has the most points. Always try to play with a point. Don't get in a habit of playing moves that you feel are right, but they don't have a purpose. And I kind of feel bishop d3 can't be a bad move, but it's one of those moves that you feel's right, but it doesn't have a purpose. Queen a4 has a purpose. And the purpose is stuff like bishop takes a7. If that is defended, I mean, already black's in serious trouble. We even have knight e5. And this is already kind of hopeless. Knight takes e5. Yeah, we're sacking a piece. But now we got knight b5. And we are ready to continue with a strong attack by checking and taking there. And we're going to have 2 pawns for a winning attack in this position. So queen e7 is too slow. Now bishop e7 is a move which is, I think, you're very likely to get, because now black, it looks like black's going to go that way, right? And he's just putting his bishop on a good square to develop. The bishop can also come out to f6. The problem with f6, and the problem with the bishop being here, is that later on, our knight can harass it. And in this case, well, you might think that bishop e3 is the right way to go. But I quite like bishop d2 here. And this move allows us to play on the e-file a bit more. Now, I guess as a basic rule, we're putting the bishop on e3 to block the check. I did say it was the ideal position, but again, it's case-to-case situation. The bishop on e3 is in an ideal situation when black is going to go queenside, right? Because we saw how that bishop plays a part in the attack. But again, you've got to look at what your opponent's doing, and you've got to second guess your opponent. When your opponent plays bishop e7, what is the likelihood he's going to castle queenside? It's not a likelihood. He's got to move his bishop, his queen, his king. It takes 3 moves, and that's too long. So he's going to now castle his king kingside. So in actual fact, moving our bishop to this square is again pointless. I prefer bishop d2 because we have more chance later on to come to c3 and attack the king on that diagonal. If the bishop goes to e3, we can't really go here without losing the bishop. So in this case, again, case to case, bishop d2 makes the most sense. Now, castles is clearly his idea, but let's just have a look what happens if he goes bishop e6. So castles, and now let's say he goes queen d7. Okay, we go bishop d3, and now castles. And now, what do you play here? I mean, I'm sure you're keen to play queen a4, but you're not threatening bishop takes a7 there. But now that black's put his king over, remember the key. The king's over there. You know where you're going to try to aim your pieces. And in actual fact, now we have bishop e3. You might think we've lost the tempo. And you might think, oh, the pieces look symmetrical. But look at what our pieces are doing. We've got our bishops here. Our opponent's got his knights there. And this bishop is now again getting ready. We're getting ready for our standard idea, queen a4, and attacking this. And this is not easy. Let's say black tries a6. We haven't looked this way to defend against that. We can even go, and again, we're trying to, like I mentioned before, in these lines, you don't really need to use your pawns. When you're attacking, pieces come first because they're more powerful. And in this position, try to just look at your pieces, and this is what we want to do in nearly all the lines here. Find the most useful and aggressive squares to them. And here, knight a4 is such a process because knight c5 is incredibly strong. The problem with black trying to move this knight, he opens up our rook. So our knight is coming to that square, which is devastating in actual fact. So I assume after bishop e7, bishop d2. And again, bishop d2 is that same philosophy. Look at your pieces. They say talk to them. but don't actually, in a tournament go, hello, bishop. Hello, my friend. Where do you want to go? And then look at your opponent and go, hello, bishop. You want to go there, do you? My little bishop. Don't start stroking your bishop at a chessboard. Put them on the best pieces, but do speak to them in the way that you want to find out where they deserve to go, what they want to do themselves. And castles must be the most obvious. And now castles queenside. And this must lead to good attacking chances. Our king is much harder to attack. Let's have a look at one line. Now, bishop e6 is at least aiming at us, but without the black queen being able to come over here, remember, our queen could do that. Blacks can't. There's not much to worry about. And in this case, we look at the pieces. Bishop d3 might now be met. Well, it's okay, bishop d3. But in this case, I actually prefer, well, I'm always going to prefer this move, h4. Bishop d3 is maybe okay. This is one time where we do use our pawns, but we're using our pawns really to support our pieces and support the knight and the bishop and take direct action. Let's have a little look further. Queen c8 was played in Razanov-Sovsky, St. Petersburg, 98, two strong players. And now the knight did come into g5, and I suppose white's waiting for this guy. Why not? Bishop comes here, and now it does come out. So, and I think it's clear black has to try and swap pieces off. That was the idea of queen c8. Queen c8 is a move I don't think many players are going to find. And after this one, well, white now played knight e4. And after a number of exchanges, we have the bishop pair later on. Bishop e5 was tried, but now a clever little tactic. And I know this is a little bit tactical, but we had this position and this position, two bishops, open position. And now you can use your pawns because your pieces are maximized, and g4 gives white an advantage clearly. So, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. And bishop e7, therefore, it is not very, all these lines black struggling, right? Now, the move knight to f5 was played actually in one of the most famous world championships. They always say the best world championships was Bobby Fischer Spassky 72. Well, it's the most famous world championships, and it was brilliant world championships. But am I allowed to be controversial and say that I actually preferred the Kasparov-Karpov battles? Oh, no, don't shoot me. I really like watching Kasparov-Karpov. Those two guys, the two Ks. And their battles I found fascinating, probably because it's more my era. Believe it or not, I wasn't around for the Fischer match. That's a shock for you, I'm sure. But I really like the Kasparov-Karpov matches. Those guys, they had two great styles and quite differing styles. And I found that match, and this is from the World Championship match, Game 10 in 1990, New York. So just the fact that this occurred shows that knight f5 probably deserves a little bit of interest. Now, in that game, Kasparov played a move which is absolutely fine. Bishop b5. And, well, what is black's idea with this? We should maybe ask first. Always look at your opponent. Well, one of the problems we've seen with that knight being there is that black can't go bishop d6. So black is trying to facilitate sweet development. But instead of bishop b5, I do like bishop d2 again here. And again, we're thinking logically. You're not supposed to move the same piece twice in the opening. This knight has moved 1, 2, 3, 4 moves. As I keep reminding you throughout this course, tempo is so key because it's a blooming aggressive course, this. So timing is important as material. And by trying to get a rook now to d1, to my eyes, makes a lot of sense. Why? It's more powerful now that the d file is not blocked. So by playing bishop d2, we're actually just facilitating castles and play immediately along the open lines. I fully expect now black to continue with bishop d6, so at least closing that line. And now the point of this idea is this check here, disrupting black's development. And after queen e7, which maybe Karpov was thinking of doing, we can just castle. And again, this is a case where the queens come off. I feel with bishop d3 coming here, black should probably take the queens off. But it's not a case where black equalizes. We're either going to take that bishop and all play g4, g4 first, then take the bishop's ideal. And the only way to avoid that is for black to say move the bishop. But that allows bishop f4, and we see this as a target. And after the defensive bishop d8, which has occurred in, again, Raid Laventic Nîmes 2008, we just keep developing bishop c4. And after rook e1, just look at our centralization here. And again, where is black developing? Bishop comes to d7, knight c5, comes and hits that one. Black can't get the boys out the back. And this is why I quite like this bishop d2. It's a simple solution. And after this check, if black doesn't go queen e7, but prefers knight here, which is a way that Karpov's tried to move his pieces to better squares, but it's taken time, we now, of course, castle. And after bishop f5, this is quite amusing because we've looked at the queen coming this way. But in this case, I like the queen coming this way. It seems more likely the black king's going to go that way, so let's put the queen over there. He's moved the queen a lot of times, but all with points, and black's moved his pieces a lot of times. One idea is if black now castles, well, we are ready to play g4, and that is certainly a move I think I would be wanting to play here. But even knight e4, and again, I'm playing these computer moves because they're the best moves, but g4 must be good. And this, after knight g6, will lead to an ending where we're going to win the bishop pair. But I think if black wants to play in this way, after queen h4, don't castle and give us the option of g4. Go knight g6 straight away. And actually here, we can just go queen h5. And the funny thing is, after queen d7, we've got to watch out for this. So we play h3. And now we have this one and bishop g2 coming. This happened in a correspondence game. And the reason that we pick this is that a lot of natural moves can go wrong for black. Black's got to put his king somewhere. If he goes this way, he's going to get hit with knight g5. But if he goes queenside, which certainly looks natural, then bishop b5 all of a sudden is actually very tricky because knight d4 is a very hard move to stop, causing permanent damage to black's queenside. And let's remember, we're also threatening just to take there because the queen can't take because of the bishop. And bishop here, we continue with this move. So Karpov's move, which he didn't repeat, I think understandably, knight to f5. I like bishop d2, a simple yet good solution. Yes, we move our queen a lot, but black is not finding homes for his squares. Now we come on to the most popular move, which is g6. Now, what are we doing here? Well, in this case, bishop e3. Why are we going bishop e3 here? Well, again, with every black move, we've got, I mean, other moves are okay, but let's have a look at what our opponent's doing first before we plan. Well, clearly he wants to go bishop g7 and castle kingside. I think that is, we've got to predict the future when we're a chess player. That's what he's going to do, right? So by committing our bishop to d3, well, first of all, that pawn has blocked it up. So is the bishop really want to go there? Well, maybe not. Maybe we want to get our rook there without having blocked first. So the other thing I'm thinking after g6 is if he's going to go kingside, I'm going to go queenside because I want the most exciting game I can. So I want to move my bishop. Now, why are we not now moving our bishop to d2? Well, the reason we're not moving it now is to get it to this square, it's always going to be a little bit trickier because black's controlling that diagonal first. So in this case, bishop e3 is the most active square. And it does support us trying to do some things on d4. And after bishop g7, now we castle queenside. And this is the most aggressive move fitting in with our course. And you can see without having the rook blocked, we have also this annoying pin on the knight in cases. Now, castling is probably black's best choice. If black gets scared and tries to swap queens, well, he's got this problem where we do swap queens, but knight d5. And after the bishop goes here, bishop f4. We saw this kind of arrangement of pieces. Even when the queens aren't on the board, we still have pressure. We've even got a threat of knight takes c7, winning the knight on d6 here. And this is very nice. And if bishop takes c3, well, we just take that one. And those dart squares are just, I mean, okay, we doubled our pawns, but look at these dart squares. It's horrible. For example, castles here, just bishop d3 first. And at some point, we can centralize our pieces. But, I mean, I just don't like this dart squares. I mean, look, black has to play a move like this. Bishop takes c3 is something we should really like to see. So let's go to castling. And I have said we use our pieces when we can. But in this case, do we have any way to get our pieces to better squares? This is what I'm thinking. Well, I could move my bishop to d3, but yet again, is that a superficial move? Because I'm not sure why I'm moving it there, actually, because I'm not really ever going to be threatening. It connects the rooks, but why is that so important here? So I'm not actually that keen on moving it there. There's absolutely no point moving it to e2. Why am I doing that? I would like to move my queen and move my bishop and move my knight like this. We're going to see this set up in the Caro-Kann. But I can't actually move my queen to h4 here. So I can't. My queen's fine then. My bishop is okay. I could start simplifying. That's interesting with knight d4. But I don't really want to simplify. I like my pieces. And to do a plan, we also think, is black doing anything? Well, no, not really. We know that this is fine for us. So in this case, our pieces can't do anything. So now we should use our pawns. And we have a target to attack. Yes, yes, yes. Boom, laka, sha, sha. Been a long, long filming day. Hey, hey, hey. h4. And here comes Harry. And this is the most testing move, because we're simply trying to use this to open our opponent's king. Now, we've seen what happened with queen f6. Can you remember? You take and you go knight d5. And in this case, we even have h6 for our bishop. This is good. So what about bishop takes c3? Well, this is even worse now, because we're going h5 and our attack is even more accelerated. That king is going to be slaughtered. Bishop takes c3, never worry about. What about h6 with the idea of meeting h5 with g5? This is one of the standard ways of meeting this. Well, the problem here is these are a little bit loose. And now we can go bishop c5. And this just adds the pressure. So let's say bishop e6. And here, bishop b5 is a nice move. And these now are threatened. And h6 is just a little bit of a target for our queen. This bishop now can't really move because we're taking here. And if the king goes to the h file, we've even got knight g5s. And these two bishop moves are quite imaginative ways actually to play with your pieces. And if something like a6, well, okay, we do open the b file towards us. And this actually happened in Ivanchuk-Jacobian. And the next move, I think, is very important here. Because if black can get this and this, we're going to be a little bit scared. So now that we've created structural damage, we swap off. We don't grab that greedy pawn there. That'd be absolutely crazy. We swap off black's dangerous piece. And this is another idea behind bishop b5. That light square bishop, in actual fact, is not that great anymore. Let's get rid of it. And after this, you can't now really do this kind of thing because h6 pawn, that's slight weakness. And after f6, then bishop c5 is a lovely Ivanchuk little way of playing. Very nice. Really just making that one look stupid. And if this one, well, we'll come back again. Nice. Very nice moves there. So h4 I really like. And after h4, what about bishop e6? Well, bishop e6 is actually one of black's most common moves because black's just developing and black figures that he needs to point at our king, but he's still not doing anything. And after this common move, let's get on with it. h5. And this really plays itself. You know, I don't want to be a bit blasé, but I mean, I love this kind of position. Let's say queen f6. Well, now we can't really take and go knight d5. Well, we can, but it's not as effective. But a very nice idea is queen h2. And I love this situation. How many times can you get your queen to h2 in such an opening? h4, we allow the queen exchange. And again, you might be a little bit scared here, but please always think of concrete ideas. And there's no concrete ideas that black can do here. And our attack is coming extremely quickly. It's very concrete. Now, bishop f5 might be best here, but then we can open things up and just get rid of those defenders. This is easy. We're better here. We might not checkmate, but we're going to be blooming close. I like blooming, the word blooming. I think it's from that Christmas thing, Father Christmas. He keeps saying blooming all the time. It's not Christmas time now, so I don't know why that's coming to my mind, but strange. And again, this position, well, if black plays something like rook e8, again, it plays itself. It really does. Let's go bishop g5 first. And one little tactical line that has occurred, Shabalov versus Backed, two grandmasters now, I think. It went rook takes d6, bishop d3. I mean, these moves just are very normal. Knight e4, coming into this square. Oh, yes. Knight b4. In we come, and now this lovely finish with bishop f6, just to demonstrate. So going back to this idea here, black's best try is h5, just trying to stop our fun. But now we've got the g4 square forever, and here we can't actually make so much progress with our pawns on the king side, so it's back to the pieces. And can you remember the idea with these bishops that we did before? Bishop c5, and after something like bishop e6, bishop to h5. And this is not a very standard way of playing, but it is a very attractive way of playing. And our main idea, actually, is the positional idea, taking on c6 and then playing bishop d4 to get rid of this strong bishop. It's only one file there. Without the bishop on g7, it's not going to work. So this taking here, getting rid of the dark square bishops, is the key plan that we're achieving. Queen f6, black probably should try to get the queens off before we can do that. Let's remember we've also got knight g5, increasing the pressure. And after this one, we can now play just bishop d6 because the queens are off the board. We've got little to fear. And I like this move, not picking that pawn quite yet, but picking it now. And it's a pretty safe extra pawn in this position that we've won. Right, so we're going to stop there. And again, this Petroff line with pawn takes d4 is I don't know. I don't really believe it for black because I think after e5, knight e4 really is the only way to try. Queen takes d4, d5, open it up, knight takes here. It just feels to me that all these positions, even if we don't play the most accurate moves, are going to be better for us because our pieces have more space to move to. Black's pieces are more cramped because of that knight. He's solid-ish, but he's cramped. And we're just thinking where we put these guys in a lot of cases. We're thinking where we put our king, normally queenside, 90% of the time that way. And then wherever black puts his king, we appropriately attack. If he goes kingside, we aim there. If he goes queenside, we aim there, normally with this move. Very easy to play, very nice to play, and black can be in serious trouble in these lines. So I think black shouldn't do this variation. I think he should go to the more main lines, which we're going to come to very shortly.